right, 2006 Porsche Cayenne Turbo. The backstory on this thing is the customer was driving it home from work. The car stalled out on him. So he's able to get the car to the side of the road, put it in park, shut the key off. The car restarted, but he had a few lights on in the dash. He was able to get the car home, shut it off, attempted to restart the car, and the only message he had on the dash was a ignition switch faulty message. So we got the car here, gonna diagnose it. Let's see what we come up with. All right, I'm gonna start by verifying the complaint. We have Yave. I'm gonna hop in the car. All right, without even putting the key in the ignition, we have an ignition lock faulty message on the dash. All right, we're gonna get the key in the ignition, turn it on. Okay, we have an ignition. Let's see what kind of messages we see. Ignition lock faulty. Let's check coolant level. Brake proportioning. Air suspension. Okay. All right, I'm putting my foot on the brake. I'm gonna shut it off, put my foot on the brake, try to start it. We got nothing. Do I have brake lights? Yeah, I can see a reflection. You can't really tell, but I don't know how accurate that's gonna be, but all right. So it looks like the next thing I'm gonna do is get a scan tool connected, do a system scan on this thing and see what we come up with. So I hooked up the virus, got a vehicle system scan, and so far we have a bunch of codes in the DME or the engine computer. No comm with the cluster, gateway, TCM, no signal, steering wheel, AC control. We have a whole bunch of communication issues in the AC unit, gateway control unit plausible. So, and this was, what module was this? This was the Park Assist module, diagnostic interface, powertrain data in the TPMS, terminal 15, implausible signal, trailer hitch terminal 15, wind message faulty, can drive, communication, steering wheel control unit, no communication. Instrument panel, ECU for transfer case, no signal communication, terminal voltage, terminal 15, implausible signal. So we got a host of codes here. We have hosts, but the common theme here seems to be a network issue. So let's keep going. All right, so normally when I run into issues like this with multiple codes, I look at them and I think to myself, are they cause or effect? Are they related? You know, that's the big question at hand here. One of the things that I noticed is there is an issue with terminal 15. That's a pretty key, component with turning on components and powering them up in a car like this. And as well as obviously, a network issue. So the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get a wiring diagram and I'm gonna find the easiest thing to get to. For example, the engine computer can't communicate with the TCM, or we have, communication transmission control unit. So what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to the TCM, I'm gonna get a pinout, wiring diagram, and then I'm gonna check out the CAN lines. We're gonna check out the network and see what it looks like. All right, so I printed out a diagram of the computer data lines. Now, one of the questions that I asked myself is, how is it that I can communicate with modules, pretty much everybody on the network? Everybody, right? But for some reason, they can't talk to each other. And the diagram is what answers that question. If we go to the diagnosis plug, that's your data link connector, and we just go from left to right, man. You get your terminal 15, you have a K lead. Try to hold it steady. Then there's 2 grounds, and then there's a CAN high diag, and then there's a K lead. Then you have a CAN low diag, and then followed by terminal 30. All right, so note there's no direct connection between your DLC and the high-speed network. If you follow these guys, let's take, for example, the CAN high diag. We're just going to follow that. Look, what is that? That's an orange-black. That goes up, and it goes this way. I'm actually looking through this thing. All right, number 8, and it goes right into your gateway. And then the gateway is the one that disperses that guy out into your network. So that's basically literally what it is. It's a gateway between your CAN high diag and your high speed. And there's actually 2 high-speed networks on this thing, which I'm going to cover in a second. All right. Then there's a K lead. If you follow the K lead up, it goes to a bridge which goes into, you know, your left xenon headlight, if equipped, transfer case control unit, and so forth. So the long story short here is we don't have a direct connection. So it's not like I can hook up a breakout box to this thing and see the network. So what I want to do is I want to get to one of the modules that's having trouble communicating. And the easiest one to gain access to is the transmission control unit. And the way I was able to figure that out is I actually have somewhere in here, okay, I got a location of all our modules. Right here under the passenger seat, we have our transmission control unit, and it doesn't show the transfer case control unit, but that's under there as well. So now we're going to go to the transmission control unit and take a look at that network. All right, I'm at the right rear of the vehicle, under the passenger seat, front passenger seat. There's a transmission control module, or a transmission controller, if you will. I got my probes in the CAN high, or the high-speed CAN, and low. And I got the Pico connected. So in the blue, I got my CAN high, and in the red, I got my CAN low. And we can see right off the bat, we have a bit of an issue. I know from experience, these two should mirror each other, which they do not. The CAN high appears to be shorted. So the next thing I'm thinking is, well, what it could be that's shorting this. So what I want to do next is I want to check to see if all the modules are getting all the vital power feeds that they're getting, because it's also important to note that if there's a power feed or a ground or a critical ground missing to any of the modules on the network, it can cause this exact issue. So first thing I'm going to do, fortunately for this car, you know, we have terminals we can check with a scan tool, and I'm also going to get into the same terminals at a module. So I'm going to see pretty much what the easiest module is to gain access to see those terminals. And then we're also going to get a scan tool connected and make sure that those terminals are in fact turned on. Okay, fortunately for me, I can gain access to terminal 15 and terminal 30 right at the data link connector. So, no, I do not need to pull a module out, at least at this stage in the diagnosis. I'm in the Kessie module right now, and we are commanding terminal 15 on. So this guy wants terminal 15 to be on right now. Okay, let's note that. So, as well as my scan tool connected, I've got a breakout box connected to the data link connector. And terminal 15 is pin 1. We're just going to get in there. We're going to head over to the Pico and take a look. And we are down just about 0. So now we got to dig a little further into terminal 15. All right, so here is a view of the terminal 15 relay underneath the driver's seat on top of the battery. Terminal 30 is a big old 60 amp fuse coming in from essentially the main junction under the seat. And you have a diagnostic line, which is pretty cool. Then you have terminal 85, which is our control, and then you have 86, which is the control, and then our output to essentially all the subsequent modules which goes to the left fuse box. Now, for the sake of saving time, which as always I'm running short on, I just want to say, okay, I have power here. The diag is working like it should. Not really concerned about the diag. I'm more or less concerned about why the relay isn't operating. All right, I'm telling you flat out, this relay is not turning on right now. So we have power feed here. I'm sorry, we have a power feed here on this red and white, but we do not have a ground on terminal 85. And I'm going to show you that right now. All right, here's a view of our terminal 15 relay. Right now I'm probing into the ground side control wire going to this relay. Again, let's just revisit the scan tool. Terminal 15 is commanded on. All right, and we got 12.68 volts on that wire. I'm pretty sure that if I ground that wire, that relay will turn on. So just to prove my theory, I'm going to take a test light, doing it live, connect it to ground. All right. I just heard modules click and come on. I'm going to see if this car will start real quick. Let's see if I can prop this up. There she goes. All right. So, now we have to go to the Kessie module, and I need to see if that module is in turn really trying to turn this relay on. And under the dash we go. There is the Kessie module. I hope I'm saying that right. That's what I'm calling it. It's a KESSY unit or control unit. I am probing the brown and red, which is my ground side control to the terminal 15 relay. All right, so now, as expected, key is on, terminal 15 is still on, close to 0 volts. Now, I'm gonna take my test light, and what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna get into pin 16 on the data link connector with a probe. And yes, I do like using piercing probes. I do seal every single hole up when I'm done. Okay, so it's not like I'm leaving holes in wires when I'm done, and I'm not gonna damage anything by doing this. Okay. We're gonna shut it off. Turning it on. There's our driver. So the driver in that module is functioning like it should. So that's telling me right there that we have an open wire somewhere between here, the Kessie module, and down underneath the driver's seat. And what I can do is put a jumper wire between the two and see if this car is repaired or functions like it should, rather. All right, pardon the level of crude, but like I said, time is getting kind of short here, and I gotta wrap this guy up. So what I'm gonna do now is see if this car will fire up. All right. So now, really what we have is a open wire somewhere between the seat, or above the relay rather, and the Kessie module. So I got one of two options. I can, open up the harness and look around. I'm not really gonna make a science out of it due to the fact that we're limited on time. If I don't see anything screaming at me, I'm gonna go to the Kessie module, give the wire a snip, go into the seat, give the wire a snip, and solder in a new wire and run it along the factory harness and secure it. We're gonna get a follow-up of that though. So, with a jumper wire installed, going from the terminal 15 relay control wire at the KESI module to the terminal 15 relay holder, car starts and runs good. The original concern is actually gone. There are some other things, you know, we have a steering angle sensor thing we got to deal with, and looks like the car's a little low on engine coolant. But what I'm going to do is, I'm going to opt on snipping the wire right at the KESI module. I'm going to run a wire alongside the factory harness and solder it in at the relay holder on the other end and ship the car. All right, I think this was a really cool one, and I hope you got something out of it.